What's going on, everybody? It's your boy PTK Bland back in the building with another episode of the Shop Podcast. How are all you beautiful people doing? I already see chat filling up, see some familiar faces. We got some new wrenches. Shout out to first and foremost our new mod, Luis Jose in chat, bro. I told you I'm a man of the people. So overwhelming consensus last week. We had to make you a mod, brother. So we got to make sure you keep it clean in here on the Shop Podcast every single Saturday. But shout out to you. Shout out to all you beautiful people, OCD, Sean Sue, the OG Mod, Tool Man, everybody, Decado, all you guys, man. Retweet, share the link, let everybody know the Shop Podcast is live, the best place to come hang out on the weekend. And we actually might have a guest jumping in here as well. I did send the link out, so you never know. If he has time, he will come through. So stay tuned for that. But we do have a guest as of right now, and this is a phenomenal human being, an awesome person. Hasn't been on the show for a little bit, but one of the OGs, one of my favorite people. I don't keep up with a lot of podcasts, but this is one that I make sure that I keep up with every week, man. But you guys know him, love him, hate him. I'm sure Joe might pop in the chat later on. Joe only show his face when you're here, Luke. I don't know what's up with that. I'm gonna have to put Joe in a headlock. But shout out to Joe.
Do it.
Yeah, shout out to Joe. Shout out to Trophy Room, Kyle, everybody over there. But Mr. Luke Lore, aka or better known as Mr. Insipid Ghost. How you doing, bro?
I'm good, man. Honored to be back on the shop. One of my favorite shows. I appreciate you guys every Saturday night staying in my feed. But thank you guys for having me, man.
Oh, appreciate you, bro. Thank you for coming on, man. Like I said, always love to have you here. One of my favorite people to talk to. One of my favorite guests to have here at the shop, man. Appreciate you. Always informative, giving good takes. And I was telling you earlier, try to get Logan. Shout out to Logan, the other half, XEP as well. Obviously he had other things going on, but shout out to Logan either or. He could probably catch us on the replay. So hopefully you catch us on the replay, Logan. Shout out to you. What's up, Polly? What's up, Stinger? Appreciate all you guys in chat. You guys are fucking amazing, man. Every single week, man. My eyes get big every time I jump on this thing and hit live. More people, more faces. So you guys are awesome. But moving on to my right hand, man, the other reason why we're here, man, these two gentlemen make the podcast every week. What's up, Mr. Fuzzy Belvedere? We had a scare, bro. Now, people probably didn't know. Sometimes, the Google gods, we like to call them, we make our sacrifices, and sometimes things happen. But we almost didn't have you today.
Yeah, unfortunately, the snow and ice. I guess it must have accumulated on like power lines out here. So just as I was getting ready to, head upstairs, get everything set up, lights flickered, and then, pew, I'm like, you got to be kidding me! So I had to, send a message on X from my phone and stuff while using the flashlight on it, and luckily, I guess the reroute kind of kicked back in within 2 minutes, but. Yeah, if I drop out, then it might be another power situation. But knock on wood, hopefully Mother Nature cooperates for the show and stuff. So we'll see. But glad to be here. I got an awesome guest on tonight with Luke. But man, so much news. Can't wait to get into it. Man, let's do this.
Yeah, shout out to you too. Like I said, man, sometimes it's by the hair of our chinny chin. These shows actually come together, man. You just never know behind the scenes. But appreciate you, Fuzz. Like I said, man, hopefully everything holds together. Just you and the fam be safe, man. And shout out to everybody who's dealing with that in the Midwest right now, man. And my other brother, Mr. Pong Soul, sliding in the home place. Man, I don't know if we might have a chain coming through today. Every week it feels like we getting a train now, but we'll see. We'll see if we get that this week. But how you doing, brother? What you been up to? How you feeling?
Yeah. It's been a crazy start to 2024. Energy's all weird. I don't know if it's just a mental thing, but I had my sump pump go out this week at the house. So I was bailing water. Yeah, I was bailing water about Wednesday, Thursday. So that was a rough start real life wise. But no, great to be here. I haven't had a chance to talk with Fuzzy because we didn't have Xbox Ultimate last night. So always great to get together with him. And of course, UPTK being here. And then of course, the one and only Luke Lore, Insipid Ghost, is here with us, always bringing the hot takes. Love talking to him. So we're going to have a great night tonight. Gaming wise, man, oh man, Crazy Land. I re-downloaded Vampire Survivors. If you guys haven't heard, if you didn't hear Living Split Screen this morning, I re-downloaded. I posted it on X even earlier this week. I said, yes, it's 2024, but yes, Vampire Survivors is still one of the most addictive games I have ever
Fact.
played my entire life.
Same.
So I picked up the DLCs, $1.79 a piece or something crazy like that. So I've been rocking out with the new characters, new levels, and just having a great time on Vampire Survivors. Also, as you guys know, I did tell you guys I was picking up Saints Row. I had bought it online from somebody, the complete ultimate edition, whatever they call it. I forget what they call it now. Got that, and I've been rocking on Saints Row. Again, it's not Saints Row. It's an open world generic game. That's the way I'm playing it. But damn if I don't love open world generic games that let me run around, cause chaos, do collectibles, run stupid missions, and just generally have a good time. So Saints Row has been another thing I've been hopping into a lot, popping diamond achievements because nobody played the damn game. Okay, nobody. So that's been cool. And then the finals as well. The finals has been awesome. Yeah.
You mentioned that like 2-3 weeks though, 2 weeks in a row, I think.
Yeah, we popped into it. Me and Steele, that's what we did for New Year's.
PC?
Yeah. We Steele and I popped in on about 10 o'clock on New Year's Eve night, and we played, and Mav joined us after he got his family out of the house because he was celebrating with family, and so he popped in afterwards. But we've been running finals, and man, what a game. What a balanced,
makes me feel good about Arc Raiders.
Destructibility. Oh, yes, sir. Embark knows what they're doing because they are the classic Battlefield devs, a lot of them. The Bad Company DNA is all over it. It's just such a great time. So been having fun there. And then what else? Oh, Against the Storm. A little off the cuff here. It's in PC Game Pass. It's only available on PC right now. If you guys pay attention to that side of things, Against the Storm got a little traction, was getting some hype. It is a what do you want to call it? City builder, I guess is the best way to put it.
Okay.
But with a fantasy twist, with an actual story to it that is really, really well done. But like I was saying this morning on Living Split Screen, the atmosphere is just incredible because it's set in this fantasy world, and of course it's against the storm, so it's always kind of storming in this land. And you got to kind of you got to obviously build out your town, and you're building up, and you're gathering resources, doing all that kind of stuff. But you got to explore new areas, open them up. But the storm goes from calm, peaceful to raging, and with my headphones on, my PC, and the lightning's flashing and thunder all around, it's really insane. It's really, I see why people gravitated towards this game. Again, my early on impressions are that this is a fantastically put together game, very polished. They are still working with the community, asking for community feedback. They're still, changing things within the game and all that good stuff. But it's in PC Game Pass, so if you have PC and you like city builders, please go download Against the Storm, because this is definitely high on my list of things that I'm going to keep running into here and moving forward into because I'm absolutely loving what I'm seeing. But that's been my week of gaming, so we got a lot to get into, PTK. Let's get down to business, brother.
Man, let's get into it, man. Shout out to you. I appreciate you. Pong, once again, selling all of us on Game Pass weekly, people. Go pick it up. Go play it. Go try it. If you didn't know about it, Pong is going to tell you about it. So I don't know, how much money have you, how many games have you sold me on just in the first, just during your intro?
Man, like a dozen, maybe
probably
10,
at least a dozen
around there.
Man.
Maybe a Baker's, somewhere in that
probably,
neighborhood.
Probably something like that, man. So it's been a hella effective for me at least. But shout out to you, Pong, man. Appreciate you bringing that energy every single week. Hopefully we get a few trains come through this week. That would be awesome. But shout out to all the people just hanging out with us, man. Appreciate all you guys for coming through, spending your weekend, your Saturday evenings with us here at the Shop Podcast, and retweet that link. But we getting into it, man, and we just starting. We're off the cuff once again talking about this developer direct. We do have some new information. Speculative information, but that's kind of where we live early in the year. We're the first week of January. Nothing crazy's happened yet. So, we're in speculation town quite often. So we heard a few things. I'm sure, Pong, you've seen and heard a few things, same, maybe even with you, Luke, as well as you, Fuzzy, as well. We've talked in party chat a few times, but this developer direct has been on my mind a lot, chat. Obviously, we haven't gotten anything official yet, but I'm just curious as to the rumors we've been getting about the different dates. Which one makes sense? Because I've heard two different dates, right? Which one makes sense? Which one's par for the course? You know what I mean? Because I don't remember the date specifically from last year, and I'm sure somebody in chat let us know what the dates are. What's up, KT? Coming through. Psycho, what's up, bro? But we're going to start with you, Luke. I don't know what you've heard on the waiver wire, brother, just around X, around Twitter, but where you at just on the developer direct dates? Anything make sense for you?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've heard probably the same scuttlebutt that you guys have heard, and of course, seen stuff on socials that a developer direct is on its way. It would make sense timeline wise. It's time, with CES going on, PlayStation being represented there. You'd have to think Xbox has something in the line to get some headlines here, and it would make sense to occupy mindset and set a standard for communication throughout 2024. We saw in 2023 some of the best communication Xbox has had in recent years, which was great after 2022, for being honest. And there's some interesting things that come up with the idea of a developer direct here in the first part of the year. If they do one, they are setting a precedent because they did it last year that we can expect this to happen with regularity going forward. That's good. I think that is good, particularly given, as so many people have pointed out, they now have a pipeline of titles, games, and IP that they can make use of, big and small. This is a great time to show off smaller titles, or maybe like Hi-Fi Rush is the easy example, but kind of your indie to double A sized projects. Maybe not. Maybe it's not the time for the next Starfield or whatnot. But I see a good avenue for them to communicate with fans and help set expectations for the year of 2024, which I think is very important. I've also heard, and I'm sure many of you have, that we're going to be getting a shadow drop of some kind coming out. I think the logical thing would be to look at the socials of Double Fine and be like, make some connections and dots there with timelines. If they do a shadow drop, then they are setting another precedent that every developer direct, we can expect that. And that might not be something they want to pursue. Either way, like many, I've heard something's happening. Who knows? I'm a podcaster. I don't dabble in the insider trade. If I'm hearing something, then it's either all smoke and mirrors or absolutely happening. There's no in between. So who knows? We'll see.
Yeah. No, once again, I haven't in chat. This is something, and this is why I love having you on, Luke, because these different opinions, man, because I never considered it from that perspective. As far as like the precedents that they'll be setting, I think we do this as fans. We just all assumed that this was going to happen again this year. They never came out and said they were going to, right? And we all thought, okay, this show it was hugely successful. There's no reason why they wouldn't continue to do it again. I think that's the logic of pretty much all of us here, or just about any of us that cares in the Xbox community. So I've never even considered the fact that they just might not and be like, well, we'll just do our show during the summer. But that's kind of crazy considering they should have more to show going forward. Like the show should get better, essentially, right?
Yes, and I think they should have a developer direct. I think they should set expectations for the year. That is something that does need to happen on their part. So I am very much in favor of them doing this. But anything they do this year that is the same as last year, we are now going to expect, without compromise, them to do something very much the same in 2025. And they need to prepare for that. They need to know that. But I think they do. I'm sure they're well aware. I'm excited for this year because I think we're going to see the Bethesda in Exile and Obsidian acquisitions, Double Fine as well, I'm sorry, in full swing. We'll see the fruits of that labor. And then down the line, we can see more from the Activision Blizzard, like holistic IP. But you have to think also, and I don't know how Fuzzy and Pong, how you guys feel, but like we have to start seeing the plan for distribution of Activision Blizzard content, back compat. Otherwise, we'll find out what they're going to do with Spider-Man, which is a complex IP now. Like, what are you going to do with the 360 titles? What are you going to do with games like Singularity or the old Call of Duties? Like, we need to start seeing how they're going to manage that. With Bethesda, they did a huge content drop. Here's wave one, but old Bethesda titles go. Will we see that with Activision? You'd have to think that they're going to start teaching us what to expect.
And that's fair. That's a fair assessment. And I think that's fair of everybody, right? I feel like that's right down the middle, as much as you can be. We all have preferences, Luke, right? Some of us don't like the idea of, just trusting them and saying, you know what, we'll wait, figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, we'll show whatever you guys are ready to show us, we'll wait to see it. Some people don't like that concept. Some people are like, hey, this precedent needs to be set. This is the expectation going forward. It's always a slippery slope, chat. And that's the crazy thing about Xbox is that as much momentum as they have, as much progress as they've made, these things still come up for some reason. right? Like these questions still are asked. Like even after, there's almost no reason to like think the developer direct is going to be any worse than it was last year, or just any like the quality of the show will be any worse than last year. But for whatever reason, doubt creeps in the community. People ask these questions about the show and things like that. So let me throw this over to you, Paul, and get your opinion. We talked about the direct maybe 2-3 weeks in a row now at this point, and we've had a bunch of different dates. Some people throwing out some different things, confirmed or not, but we're not insiders, so we don't do that. But where you at on just like the dates one, and then kind of piggybacking off what Luke talked about, as far as like setting a precedent?
First of all, I got to call BS on Luke here.
Oh,
He says he doesn't dabble in the insider trading stuff. Sir, you had a post on X prior to the Game Awards. You knew something, sir. You knew something.
What?
whoa!
I'm pretty sure.
Put the receipts on live.
I'm pretty sure I know what it was, but I'm just saying you do dabble in that, sir.
But so many people knew about Blade. Come on.
Yeah, but not the wider community. There was still a whole lot of guessing going on. I'm just saying that you put out that cryptic post, sir, so you do dabble around Speculation Town from time to time. Anyways, I just had to call you out on that.
He got me.
Because I did post it to Mav and stuff in the DMs, and I said, oh, looks like somebody knows something. Look at Luke Lore. He doesn't usually make posts like this. Look at this guy. Anyways, yeah, as far as the developer direct, we have talked a lot about this, and Luke's exactly right with his expectations and setting expectations. And again, I think we've all had this discussion so much that with the amount of studios and the amount of content that Xbox has, I mean, again, we've heard that they've got a roadmap for 15 years at this point. This should be the expectation, is having a developer direct early in the year to start off the year. On top of expectations, I think the developer direct is a great way to set tempo for 2024 as well. It really jumpstarts your news cycle when it comes to the brand new year. They did it last year with an A+, right? They absolutely crushed it with the developer direct, with the Shadow Drop of Hi-Fi Rush. And no, I don't think we should ever get to the expectations of Shadow Drops ever. If you want to expect it, want to expect it, then that's on you. And again, I'm not the dude who says tone down the hype. I'm the hype man, right? I will get myself excited if I want to get myself excited. And if I'm disappointed, I got nobody but myself to blame. And I won't come blame Xbox unless they themselves came out and said something that they didn't follow through on. I will never tell you to not be hyped. But I will say, as far as Shadow Drops go, even if they do another one here, even if there so happens to be another game, and obviously there's rumors swirling about Killing, from Double Fine being the Shadow Drop game, because that game was actually shown in 2017. So it's been on the back burner for quite a long time. Even if that happens here, we can't, I'm personally, I'm not going to tell you can't, but I'm personally not going to start expecting Shadow Drops. Again, I think these are rare occasions. We kind of got information about Hi-Fi Rush 2 that they had wanted to talk about it earlier, and it kept kind of getting pushed, and the window kept getting smaller and smaller, and they just wound up deciding to do the Shadow Drop, which worked out in their favor. So I don't want to set that expectation, but I think as far as having the developer direct early in the year, absolutely that should be an expectation. They are going to have enough content going forward for as far as we can see in terms of video game development. That's not, necessarily, 20 years, but again, internally they have like a 15-year roadmap. I think we can safely say for the next few years, at least, just from what we know, this will be a regular thing. And I think it sets the expectations. It sets the tempo for the new year. And I think what they're going to do here is they're going to give us, obviously, what they did last year was perfect. So I think they're going to go right back to that, and they're going to give us that inside look at the studios. Whatever games they're going to decide to show off here, I think we'll get maybe one surprise. And then the other games that are close to coming out, Tower Born, maybe Hellblade 2, maybe just a Hellblade 2 announcement of an actual full date or direct for Hellblade 2 itself, if they want to go back to the Starfield kind of place and do something big for Hellblade 2. Things like that, things that are close. maybe a couple updates, but I think that we're going to get the behind the scenes look of the studios again. I think that they
I
heard
like
from the
that,
community. Yeah, we loved it, man.
I
we
like that.
loved
Yeah.
it, especially how they did it. No narrator, just let the devs themselves talk about the games they're working on, give us glimpses of what they're doing, show us that excitement they have for making and creating this art that we all love and enjoy. That's more and more what I want to see. And I think they heard that loud and clear. So I expect with Tina Amini, especially running the ship now, with her first big showing was that direct after she got hired. I think she's got it. She's nailed it. I think Phil obviously is very happy with what happened last year. So I think that's exactly what we're going to get here. But I expect this is the beginning of the news cycle for Xbox, which is going to extend through the entire year. There are going to be tug of wars with the news cycle between Nintendo and PlayStation and Xbox, because Nintendo supposedly is going to have some big stuff this year. You know, PlayStation supposedly is going to have some big stuff this year when it comes to new hardware. Same for Nintendo. So I think we're going to have some tug of war. But the most consistent company this year is going to be Xbox when it's all said and done, just because they have so much to show. And I don't think this is the only direct that we get this year. I think we get at least one more this year, actual official direct. I don't know when. It could be another summertime one prior to Showcase. It could be a little bit late summer after Showcase. But I think we do get another dev direct just because of how much they've got to tell us about right now. But this does start the news cycle for them. And as Luke pointed out, the ABK stuff, giving us a roadmap of how the backwards compatibility drop is going to work. If there is any plans for some of the bigger games like Diablo or Call of Duty at this point, giving us a, idea of when that can be expected. That's going to be a major portion of it as they continue to impress upon the community and the media that ABK is now ours. Okay. We this is now first party. This is ours. We are going to showcase it as well, and we're going to use it, and Game Pass is going to benefit from it greatly. So I think that that's what this direct is going to be all about.
Awesome. So great breakdown. And before we continue, you guys can see Fuzzy dropped out. He just messaged me. Looks like the power went out again. He did tell us prior to the show. So unfortunately, the power went out again. Maybe he'll be back. Obviously, if he's able to come back, he will. So, we'll just send our love to Fuzz and hope, the family, everybody's safe there. But Fuzz, let us know, bro. The link is already there if you're able to come back, bro. But great points, Pong, about that. And I love the fact that you brought up a couple specific things. One regarding the ABK stuff, and I think that's a big one too, right? Like, obviously, how are they going to integrate that into the show? And we talked about integration. That's a big thing too, Luke. And I kind of want to throw this back to you, Luke, as you guys see our other guests coming here. What's up, Steel?
Yo, can you hear me?
Man.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Am I coming through?
Yeah,
Double dose of Steel Rain. I cannot handle myself today. Oh my God.
Sure? Am I sounding crispy? I think I sound a little low.
You sound a little low. I'm not going to lie. You sound like you.
What if I did this?
You're not quite in the bathroom.
I'm not quite in the bathroom. That's
no.
How about now? How about
there
now?
You go. There you go. There you go.
That's good. Are you sure?
Yeah. Yes.
Are we live, raw, and uncut right now, guys?
We are.
Live,
we're
naked.
You guys were talking about this direct, wasn't it?
Oh
yes,
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You said you're naked?
Yeah. You heard me.
Oh, dang. You're starting to start my
early.
language.
It's 7:30. Let's go.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, my fault, PC.
Those had a few late mimosas.
You left the back door unlocked, PC.
I did,
I told
man.
you about that. If you leave the door, I'm going to come through.
Just don't let the Miami aliens come in, okay? Just don't let those guys in.
None of those.
Look, I'm trying to keep those in the tuck. You guys just relax. I'll let you guys know when something goes awry. But look,
PTK
man,
realizes his mistake. He's just lost control here.
No, you're good. I never lose control. I just let you guys use it for a little while. That's all.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
No, but it's all serious.
No,
with all seriousness, I appreciate you, PTK, for sending that invite through. Yeah, man, just dropped off the girls, just got back in, and sitting down, ready to chop it up with my brothers, man. I see we got Luke Lord in the house. Oh, man.
What's up,
It's about to be an interesting show today. But
you better go put your tie on, Steel. Luke's in the house.
Whoa.
We got to get professional around here. Come on now.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a safe space for him to get a little loose. Who knows?
Let his hair down a little bit. No, but so just getting back into it, Luke, that's a great point. Integration, and I kind of want to throw that back to you as far as the ABK stuff, because that's a huge thing. Like, when are we going to see that, right? Like, we talked about there possibly not even being a ZeniMax Bethesda like sit down with Xbox, because this was more of a transactional thing with ABK. They didn't have the relationship that Bethesda ZeniMax had. That was like a best friend, like, oh, we're finally together, right, after all these years. This thing was transactional with ABK. So we may not get a formal sit down, like a round table with them. So what do you think about as far as the integration and the developer direct?
Well, I think well, first I agree with you about the sit down. Like, who would you sit down with? They've kind of booted some of the leadership.
Bobby gone.
Yeah, like Bob. Oh, thank goodness Bobby's gone. Yeah, I don't know who you'd sit down with, because the names there are not quite the same. They don't garner the same panache, and Activision has very much become a Call of Duty machine with a few side projects. And I don't mean that as a diss. I'm not knocking anything or anyone there, but we as consumers and as content creators are expecting over time it to shift away, for them to adjust the cadence of Call of Duty content, which was already happening in that direction, but also to see, and our hope, I think, at least my hope, is that we see Activision Studios freed up to work on other projects. So we're not going to see the Xbox Activision for some time, but we could see, I suppose, like the prelude, the prologue, the hints as to what it is they're trying to work on by how they build out Xbox Activision titles into Game Pass, how they build out Activision titles via back compat. Will we see the return, I think I mentioned earlier, of some of those Spider-Man games? How are they going to manage the licensing on that, given Sony's connection with Spider-Man? How are you going to manage older Call of Duties? What are you going to do with the 360 titles that maybe people haven't heard from? I think of Singularity. Do you tease or remaster or bring back in quick ports of older titles? Hexen being a good example of that. You know, we've heard Phil at various points in his career say that he doesn't tease arbitrarily. So are they going to show us by way of content drops or distribution and timing of distribution for Activision titles into Game Pass? I think we do. And I have to think also that they are going to time these and drip feed these out in windows where they're not releasing content. We expect 4 games this year from them, and then slyly on like, you know, wink and a nod, we think there's 5 or 6, right? Because you've got the known quantities of Towerborn, Flight Sim, Hellblade 2, and I believe we're kind of all taking at face value that Avowed is this year. But do you see that Gears remaster? Do you see a smaller project drop in there, the Double Fine one?
Definitely.
And what they're going to do is use Activision Blizzard content and drip feed that into Game Pass in the windows where those things aren't happening. So at least that's my anticipation. So that's what I expect to see, is a precedent set and a tease to what their future vision is for distributing that content, because they need to make use of those IP. I also expect, maybe not in the developer direct, but in the first part of the year, we're going to see what their plan is for some of this content being multi-platform. Are they going to work with Nintendo in getting things out? I threw out a crazy idea on XEP today that I'll throw by you when you guys are ready for it. But like, it was just an off the hand thought of just a thing they might do. And who knows, you know, like that they've got room to push the industry in a way they didn't get to before. They got pushed around at one point. You don't get to push around the people that own Call of Duty and Diablo and Overwatch and Warcraft and Candy Crush. You don't get to push them around anymore. So it'll be very interesting to see.
Oh yeah. So great takes. Always the best takes for Luke. And shout out to some new faces here, man. Shout out to the Longhouse, Gold Status, everybody coming in here, hanging out. Hit the like button on your way in. Subscribe if you're new, man.
Let's go.
Black Viking and the Crib. Appreciate you, bro, for coming through, man. Appreciate you. We got to link up, bro. Hit me up, DM me. But I appreciate all of you guys for coming through, like I said before, man. But yeah, I agree with that take 100%, Luke. You know what? Once again, another thing that I never considered about obviously using that content and drip feeding a staff throughout the time, because that's the one thing people don't realize, is that obviously it took 20 months for this to even happen. It's not going to take 6 for them to start like fully integrating everything. So it's still going to take time, like over time, for them to they still got HR stuff to figure out.
Yeah. And every content drop they have is a chance to occupy news headlines in a way that they weren't going to before. That is a chance to be in the mind share of everybody. And PlayStation had a great year last year in terms of unit sales, but we've seen that method of distribution have diminishing returns as the cost of making games goes up. And they had one major first party release last year. So PlayStation is in a unique position now where their content is very expensive to make. Their hardware is very expensive. Despite selling well, it's expensive. And they don't have much in the pipeline that is known at this time that's soon. So Xbox has an opportunity to consistently, repetitively, and with perpetuity get the headline in a positive sense. So I'm really curious to see how they handle that.
It is true. It is a unique opportunity for them as a brand as a whole, Luke. So I think that's a great point. So let's bring Steele in here. Obviously, get you all wrapped up in this. Steele, we've talked about this a few times. Got the full. So you got your other half here. So you're fully powered up today. So we don't get 50% Steele. We get 100% Steele today. Never that. Shut up. But now you good, bro. But no. So just the whole developer direct, everything we've talked about already, as far as integration, as far as things that we might possibly see, as far as these dates that we're getting, like your expectations, things like that.
Developer direct. Let's see. I heard Pawn talking a little bit about the expectation of shadow drops, and I did see a lot of that energy that is starting to come out where people may start feeling like that's an expectation, right? And as great as shadow drops are, and I do like secrets also. The industry is also can be very secretive with some things, so I have to imagine that there's some things that are under the tuck for Xbox coming up to this developer direct. The biggest thing for me is I want to see a Marcus Phoenix collection, mainly because 2 and 3 haven't been on PC, and I do think that 1 through 3 would hit differently today. To kind of give people a reference point to why Epic even became as relevant as they did into the console generations, because they were already making a name with Unreal Tournament and whatnot back on PC back in the day. But once they were able to make that change from Bulletstorm into Gears of War, and really make a name for themselves, you can see what they could do, and they created Fortnite. So it's like I would have to imagine that the coalition has been hard at work. They're one of the most passionate studios in the industry. They've literally changed their name to fully align themselves with Gears. So that's the main thing that I would be looking for, because it's the most obvious, right? It's not nothing new. I'm not some genius that came up with this or whatever the case. But other than that, as far as like combining things, I would like to see some Activision catalog come in there, whether that is some of the older Call of Duties, like we go back to like Black Ops 2 maybe, and further back. Just to have those in Game Pass, I think it would be a really nice exchange, or an additional value for sure for people who are already a part of Game Pass. But you saw what they were doing when they apparently the service came back on, although you still had the cheaters and everything. But that still was a moment for people. So maybe you could do something like that. Maybe the older Call of Duties that were more story focused, especially with this year's being so short for people, or last year's now. But that's kind of what I'm thinking. Other than that, it's at this point, Xbox has all the cards going into this next year because we have a roadmap for them, right? There's one thing that people were asking for, that they always brag that PlayStation always had. And again, it's not slander, it's the reality of the situation, which makes it even more interesting for me, because it's like, as someone who currently doesn't see the value of being in that ecosystem, I want to see an exchange. And this most recent trailer that they put out, I don't know if that's sparking the competition enough, especially when your competitor has games like Hellblade that are coming out next year. Just as an example, along with the different slew of games that could be dropping in, along with Game Pass. I do think it's probably going to be similar to what we got the year previous. I think we got Minecraft, Forza, which with the Forza was Redfall, which
Starfield,
ended up falling
obviously
short.
at the end.
I think this time around you have a lot more packing in the clip to shoot with, that can really get some people's interest, or at least perk some ears. And I think that's what's going to be interesting about this one, more so than anything. Not really the combination of Activision, Blizzard, because There's a lot of those things that still need to be worked out until they say that BattleNet has been some way formed into Xbox PC app or whatever they decide to do with that. I don't think we're really going to see much more of an avalanche from it. So, but yeah, I'm looking to be surprised. But other than that, yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the support.
Okay. All right, great points. And once again, chat, this is something that we've talked about a few weeks now. This developer direct, so many question marks. And when we have debates and conversations like this, all this does is bring up more questions later on for us. But there's some interesting things too about this direct. And I kind of want to throw this back to you, Luke. Matter of fact, just everybody here on the panel as well as YouTube chat. We've always talked about, now that they have so much content, how are they going to sort this out? Like, what's the most important aspect of that, Luke? Like, in which order do they do it? You know what I mean? Like, because sometimes the order matters, right? Like, I don't know which IP is the most important. Do you do new IPs first with the ABK stuff? Do you do the remaster stuff first, since that seems to me the most logical way to go about it, right? But how does that influence the rest of your lineup for the rest of the year if you decide to do remasters versus trying to do like one new Activision IP?
I think new Activision IP is probably further down the line than anything else.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of indication that they were doing that. They were a Call of Duty machine for the majority of their development. That said, I think you start by looking backwards. You identify known quantities that will make a splash when they make an appearance on a news headline. Spyro, Crash Bandicoot, older Call of Duties. You start there. That's, I think, a good starting point. And then from that point, you create a timeline of what's in queue for development. I'm sure they've already done this, but
yeah,
what's in queue for development, how long is expected for completion of those projects, what's the right distribution? Does that go Xbox PC, or should you stay multi-plat on whatever project that is? Should you consider making it a multi-plat? If it's not, should you consider making it exclusive? The size of the project is a big thing there. If you've got new IP, I think the first thing you do is look at, okay, what type of game is it? If it's meant to be like a mass multiplayer online, that should be multi-platform everywhere. If it's meant to be something a bit more single player or smaller community, then you need to make that exclusive so you have another weapon in your arsenal. And I think that's a lot of the decisions that they're having to make. I do think, without a doubt, something that they are consciously doing, they've addressed this at various points, is making sure they don't run into another Redfall. What is it that we're going to put out that's now under the Xbox banner? Does it showcase quality? Is it 8 and above? Have we established that it's going to be running well on our physical consoles, on our cloud-based systems, on PC? They need to avoid that run-in, so they don't have that be the headline, because Redfall has righted a lot of its ship and no one cares. No one's going to care. It's just they botched it, and they gave a black eye to an otherwise really good year of content releases from Microsoft in 2023. So they want to avoid that again. So I bet you there's a lot of sitting down. And if I'm Phil, or rather I should rephrase that, if I'm Sarah Bond, I'm sitting there looking at the calendar. What do we got for this window, for that window, for this window, for that window? What do we expect our competitors to have, our third-party publishers to have? And what should we go toe-to-toe with? What should we not go toe-to-toe? Do you need more time to make sure this happens better? We can give it to you because we got this other game that slots in.
Well, and you got to consider this year being very unique, because there might be a refresh, as well as a brand new system. That throws everything off. That's different than a new game release. You know what I mean? A little bit different. Right. So you got to compensate for brand new hardware coming on the market as well too. So that might change your actual slate of game releases too. So it's a lot going on. 2024 can be very interesting. It's a great year for Xbox. They are in a great spot. I think we can all agree. But I want to throw this question over to.
Can I throw one more thing out?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry. One more thing to consider for the next person who speaks on the panel. There was the Xbox self-imposed leak, like that shot in their own foot, where we saw new hardware, those refreshes that you're talking about, the expectations of refreshes other places. How much do they have to deal with that? Do they change that given hardware sales of the Series X? We saw the reduced price after the holiday that now seems to be trying to move units off shelves. That's happening for one reason or another. It could be that they didn't sell well, they needed to get rid of it, or they need to clear stock space for this refresh coming in. You need to have a title to go with that. If you're given a refresh, does it up the power like the One X did to the One S? Or is it just streamlining it, making it a little bit cleaner, kind of like the Xbox Elite 360 Elite did? So regardless, you want to time some of those releases with that. And I welcome Pong or Rain to jump in on that thought.
Well, go ahead, fellas.
As far as that goes, as far as Elite goes, I'm on record already as saying that I believe their plans had already changed. I believed Phil when he came out and said those were old plans. Not that they were all per se scrapped. The controller, I think, is probably a reality that we saw that they probably worked on. Maybe it's changed a little bit here and there. But as far as the consoles go, I'm now in the corner that they launch next gen early. I am in that corner. I think they go 2027, possibly even 2026, depending on where they're at in R&D and development. But I think that they've already adjusted due to the fact of what you had just said, Luke, which is a great point. This generation, from the get-go, did not go as planned. Not to say that it's been a failure by any stretch of the imagination. Again, they just made a $70 billion investment. Okay. This has not been a failure. They've got their roadmap lined up. They've got the content and studios now. They have almost, in my opinion, completed the moat that we talked about around themselves that insulates them from the rest of the industry. So I do believe those plans could have changed early on. I believe their inclusion with the documents to the courts was a little bit of maybe cloak and dagger action, because technically those were that was real stuff. Technically that
like
was
the 3D chess type approach.
Not necessarily I won't go so far as to say 3D chess, but I will say that they knew that their plans had already changed, and in being in compliance with the court's orders of supplying documents to that degree, they threw those in there knowing that even if it got leaked, it really wouldn't affect them, right? So I think that inclusion on their part was just kind of a throw-in, as saying, hey, we're giving you the whole thing. Look, we've even given you our new hardware that we're planning on launching later this generation, right? I just think it was kind of an easy play for them. That was a throwaway. But I think that their plans had changed early on. And I think that they started looking where this was going. I think they started seeing early on some of the limitations of the current gen hardware, even if we all want to sit on podcasts and sit in chats and say, yeah, but it's the developers not taking full advantage of the tools. The developers aren't taking full advantage of the boxes that we already got. I'm sick and tired of these mid-gen refreshes. I'm not the mid-gen refresh guy. I hate them. I think they're stupid. I would not want them. But do I understand why they would do something like that? Yes. But from Xbox's standpoint, again, I'm now in the boat that they looked at everything, looked at how the generation started, looked at the pandemic and what that set them back, and it set the industry back, obviously, but it set Xbox plans back dramatically. And we know that from the internal docs, plus we know what was what was pushed and all that kind of stuff. So I think all of that kind of rolled together. They looked at it realistically and said, let's get to work on next gen. Let's be the first out the gate. And I do believe they potentially are even going in a different direction. As we've heard some of the smoke, I potentially think that they could be looking at a whole new kind of setup from the current standard console that we get now. And because they're kind of creating their own path here. They're doing their own thing. And I think that sets them free. I think they've already stepped out of the traditional business model, obviously, away from Sony and Nintendo. They stepped out of that. I think they go a step further, and I think they take themselves completely away from the traditional models. And I think that includes the consoles. Not to say we're not going to get hardware. We're going to get hardware. I believe we got at least 2 more generations of hardware. But I think that this time they might go a different route to take advantage of cloud tech that they've been obviously heavily invested in, to take advantage of AI, which they are now all in on. And I think they might experiment on this next release and get out early and take advantage of that plethora of games that they have their launch lineup that they could have ready with all of these studios, with how things are kind of lining up, the launch lineup and the first year that new system is out, whatever it looks like, they could have an unprecedented type of lineup with these studios now in-house. So I think that they see that as an advantage and might jumpstart the next gen in their own way.
No, that's a great point. And I know you're gonna jump in on this too, Steel, here in a second, but that's a very, very, very great point that you bring up there. But Steel, where are you at on this too, man?
For me, I do more so line up with what the way Pong is thinking, because it's just a smarter thing to do. The other thing too is that hardware is changing. We're also, consoles are not what they were 20 years ago. The way that you evolve with them is completely different. And me and Pong have had multiple discussions about them possibly going more of the cell phone route, right? Where you don't necessarily have to upgrade every year. You could wait 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 years if you wanted to. But if you always wanted the latest and greatest, you're going to pay top dollar for the latest and greatest. Now, I don't think that consoles are ever going to get to a point where things are $1,000 or whatnot. And I don't think that's Microsoft's goal either, per se. Because of the route that Microsoft is currently going, it only makes sense that if they have figured out a way to implement the cloud infrastructure into a console and make it work enough to where, whether they do it with storage, like they do very similar to what they do with Flight Sim, again, we're talking about petabytes of data. And guys, it's a lot more than a terabyte, just in case you were curious. Which is just insane to me, even on a conceptual level. And I'm not even that nerdy about that stuff, but just thinking about how space works and what if we were able to cut down our games by half, and because of whatever storage cloud network that they're able to implement, that's how they're able to do that, right? So maybe the terabyte on your box turns into something different. Maybe that's what they implement into a new system or a updated system. And that's what I more so mean by like that phone implementation of, or at least that upgrade path. But seeing how I've seen a lot of people take the conversation more so like, oh man, Microsoft's going to drop out and they're just going to make, that's why they want to get back into mobile, because they're going to stop making consoles and make phones again. And that's what they're going to sell everybody. And that's what's going to replace. I was like, that's still a different market though. And the way that gaming is currently, yes, getting into the mobile market is great. And that is Microsoft's overall ploy, but they've already accomplished most of what they were looking for with getting the Activision Blizzard deal, with now having King. Bingo. So that's less of a worry.
Yeah, they kicked down the door. That's not
exactly. So they kicked down that door. They made their bed. They got their shoes up right, nice and neat, tucked in. So it's like, now you got to think about, how do we continue to give more access to people? And I saw people in this chat, and I've heard other people talking about it. I do think that Microsoft going to multiple platforms, like you were saying, PTK, like we got to kind of branch our mind out a little bit about what gaming may be going forward. Yes, exclusives do still matter. First party still does matter. You need something to buy me into the ecosystem. But why does it have to be stringent on me buying a specific piece of hardware that has been proven? Because it's not like we needed the top brass of Sony to come down to say, hey, these consoles aren't doing well. Just selling consoles isn't enough for us. We need to sell software. We've seen this trend over the last 2 decades. So now you see Xbox moving in this direction. And I do think that implementing something to that matter is what I would be interested in seeing. Again, the controller is definitely something else that would be dope. I haven't used a stock Xbox controller in a while though, so that's just a me thing. But I do want better for everybody essentially. But that's kind of my thought process on it so far of what I would expect from it.
Okay. All right. We're going knee deep on the developer direct and everything going around. And like I said, it's just a lot to get into, man. And the year's still early, chat. It's obviously there's a lot going on, and there's a lot more that we will know here very soon. And these next about 7 to 10 days, are going to tell us a whole lot about their plans, like to start this year. That's for damn sure.
And one other thing, real quick, because Pong, you touched on the fact of them kind of starting this generation and finding out that they weren't really on par where they needed to be. And I think what's more so happening, not necessarily Moore's Law, but again, what we've seen more so is it's not that the hardware isn't capable. What we're finding is that publishers either aren't allowing the time or the money to allow to get these things done in a fashionable sense, or we're also seeing games coming out just broken or not complete or features missing or whichever else. So it's like, I don't think it's necessarily the hardware, it's them using the hardware. But by the time they use the hardware, now we're getting back into the conversation that we always get into at the beginning of the generation, and we get something completely different at the end, right?
Yeah,
Last of Us wasn't possible in the beginning of the PlayStation.
No. And I thought I made that clear. Sorry, Steele, if I didn't make that clear. I wasn't talking about the hardware. I was talking about the devs. Like I said, we can sit here all day long and say the devs aren't using the plastic box, aren't using the tools. But we've also found out now, especially third party wise, right? They're not going to be given the time and resources to pull all the tricks out of the bag, right? To make sure that these games are fully optimized. We've seen that time and time again. So what do you do at that point if you are a hardware maker, right? You can sit back and tell these devs, well, you guys aren't optimizing your games. It runs like crap on our system, but that doesn't matter to the third-party publisher. They don't care because, again, now it's become standard to fix your game down the road. But the facts remain that the only way around that is to have enough overhead where the devs, even if they don't put the time in, the game still runs at least decent when it shows up, like it does, like we see time and time again on high-end PCs that can that can power through what is a problem on a mid to low PC or a console. So that's what I'm saying. They're kind of in that tough spot because you can't force the devs to do better work, to optimize, to have more time, to spend more money. You can't force them, especially the third-party side of things, right? So what are you going to do about that? Right. So
that's extremely tough. And that's once again a slippery slope. We have these debates and conversations about, the push and pull of the industry. And, it's give and take at the end of the day, man. You got to give a little to get something back. When you're dealing with developers, you're making these video games. And unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't work out for everybody. But I do like the ideas. And that was a great warm up topic. Obviously, the developer direct is something that is looming, right? Obviously. And something that we've all wanted to, we all obviously want to see coming up. So let's get into the next topic here on the show. And I don't know if you want to just introduce whatever you got today, Paul, and then I'll round out the show later.
Yeah, I certainly can, for sure. So let's get into the smoke that kind of happened this week because it's starting to become a bigger conversation, and it depending on whether or not it's real, we're going to have some probably really tough conversations around here at some point. And of course, what I'm talking about is the rumor, and again, grain of salt. No doom and gloom here, first of all, from me at all. There is no doom and gloom about this. But the rumor is that there is potentially an Xbox exclusive that is going to go multi-plat. We don't know what
ask me my theory.
I'm going to, sir. Let's see. We don't know what platforms. Obviously a lot of people are assuming and guessing and in speculation town right now. Obviously, one of the popular ones is Hi-Fi Rush, as it was put out in the rumor. This was a top tier type Xbox game that had a lot of steam, that was up for, was in conversation for Game of the Year when it launched. It was critically received well. So there's a few that fit that narrative, right? There's a few that line up. I personally, just throw this out there, I don't think they're doing any of the big AAA stuff, the big first-party stuff. I do believe this is the smaller type games. Your Hi-Fi Rushes, your Pentiments, your Psychonauts 2 are all viable candidates to fit this. I don't personally believe it is with PlayStation. I believe it is going to go to Nintendo. Brad Smith had a tweet, if you guys remember, after they signed the 10-year deal with Nintendo during the ABK acquisition. He put out a tweet that garnered some conversation because people were like, did he make a mistake? Is he telling us the future? What's going on? Because in that tweet, he said, we are planning on bringing Xbox games and Activision Blizzard titles to Nintendo within this contract, right? So and a lot of people thought maybe he just misspoke or you didn't really mean it or whatever the case may be, that he was kind of putting that out there for the public so that the court saw it. Well, here we are. Now we get a rumor. And again, grain of salt, nothing official yet, but I want to get everybody's opinion here because obviously this is a big talking point. There are people in this community who absolutely 100, even though we have day and date PC games for Xbox, they despise the idea of any exclusives going to either PlayStation or Nintendo because neither one of those two companies, as we all well know, are going to be giving us on the Xbox side any titles, right? Any of their exclusives. They're not going to share. This is going to be a lopsided deal, a business deal at the end of the day. But there are some people who absolutely hate the idea. There's other people. Obviously, the circus believes that Microsoft is going third party by 2027. So this is a victory for them if it happens. There's a lot of different talking points. So I want to get everybody's opinions on this. And let's start with our first guest, of course, Mr. Luke Lohr, Insipid Ghost. Sir, go ahead. You theories. What do you got? What are your feelings on this? If it does happen, it's smaller game.
Luke chomping at the bits over there.
Are you? Yeah, no. Are you okay with AAA's going? What do you think's going on here, Luke?
So here's my theory. It's so dumb. Like I stumbled into it today. It's not like a
love these.
These are fun.
Yeah.
All right. We have seen plenty about how the Switch 2 is basically just a really solid uptick in power for the standard Switch, but not a lot is changing. That's all speculation, right?
Yep.
But could you imagine if they launched the Switch 2 and on it and available day one is the multiplayer for Halo Infinite and you have Tatanka launching this year? Tell me that wouldn't be crazy.
Look, you're speaking nightmares to people right now,
crazy.
right?
You're saying half the chat leave right now.
Let me tell you right now. You don't give them the campaigns. You don't give them the stuff that costs
Just
money.
the multiplayer,
You give them the multiplayer that's free to play on Xbox and PC, and suddenly the guy from Fortnite, Master Chief, is there for how many more systems, and it's available on a console that has just gotten a ton of spotlight and popularity as its uptick in power. How cool would that be? How cool would that be? So I'm there for it. That was my crazy theory.
Luke
yes, Hi-Fi Rush
bridge on this one. I did not see that coming at all.
Yeah, I mean, come on, like Sea of Thieves, Hi-Fi Rush, Pentiment, Grounded, they all make great sense. But is just a fun kick it around. Wouldn't that be great for Halo?
That would be
Halo
different.
Need the shot in the arm? Wouldn't
That
that
would
be
be
great
different.
because you got to log in? Yeah,
that's how you bring the youth back to Halo. I would say
exactly. None of my kids, the students I teach, have talked about Halo ever. They're like, "Who's the green guy on your wall?" Shut up, kid. You're suspended. You know, that's my response to them.
Detention.
You know, like write me a report.
Part of my class.
Yeah. But can you imagine how good that would be for the brand and just how bringing it to relevance that would be? And if you're able to get Tatanka out alongside it, or that's in the launcher, suddenly people are like, wait, what's this? There's a Master Chief collection on Game Pass. Oh, I can play this at 120 over on Xbox, but I'm getting it at 60 on my Switch 2 or whatever. It was just a fun idea. It's kind of crazy, but like there's a little like it makes just a little bit of sense. And it's like, wait a minute, what if? So there's that out there. It's just a spitball there. Like, see what you think. But, you know, yes, Grounded, Sea of Thieves, Hi-Fi Rush all make better sense. But it's more fun to think Halo.
So can I assume from what your theory that you are cool with this stuff? How far are you cool with it? Before do you believe that they still need to have exclusives for their brand, or are you on the? I mean, again, we all say we'd love one box that plays everything, right? That's a utopia, right? But at the end of the day, really, if we're gonna have brands and we're gonna have exclusivity, are you still on the fence? Are you still in the camp that they need that exclusivity to define their brand, to drive Game Pass, or do you think it's just a spread everywhere as far as possible? Whoever's willing to take on stuff, put it there and just grow your brand that way. What do you think?
They absolutely need exclusives.
Okay.
And in this particular case, I'm speaking about the free-to-play multiplayer that's on Xbox and PC.
Sure.
You're just giving it one more screen that a lot of people are interested in getting. Do you know how many people would check out Halo for the first time? And Halo Infinite's a great multiplayer suite now. Why not? Why not do that? Because you've got Master Chief Collection and the Halo Infinite campaign sitting in lieu. You've got the season 2 of Halo, which God knows that TV series didn't do for Halo what the Last of Us TV series did for The Last of Us, or what even Twisted Metal did for Twisted Metal. And so this is a great way to bring people into that fold. And suddenly it's not the green guy that your dad played games with. It's not the guy from Fortnite. It's Halo. And so I'm okay in certain cases for this to happen, because there is a future within our lifetimes where boxes don't matter. You
Correct.
log in.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
big picture.
Yeah.
Yep.
Big picture, guys. Do you really care if you're logging in and all your achievements and all your abilities are there? Big picture, I don't. I want my controller. I want it to say Xbox because I like the brand.
Sure.
But in reality, when I log in on my phone, I'm on a Samsung, this, that, or the other. Like, I'm playing on a Backbone with a controller, whatever, but I'm playing Xbox. So
Sure.
it's throwing it out there. How
All
bad
right.
is the chat? I haven't looked.
It's
you're
not too
good.
bad, but your buddy Joe did decide to jump in. What's going on,
what's up,
Joe?
Joe?
It's been a minute. He had a question
Yeah.
for you. Let me see if I can find it
Oh,
again.
yeah,
Where'd you
yeah.
go, Joe? I just had there it is. First time, long time.
Mm-hmm,
I have a question for the panelists. Luke Lore, all capital letters, by the way. Where was he on this day about 4 years ago?
So he beat me to it. I was gonna say it's January 6th. This is his day. So last night, guys, Joseph Moran did text me. He said he put out Budweiser for Kid Rock. And he was really excited because something about January 6th was his special day. I don't know what it was. I'm unfamiliar.
Okay.
But something he
Shout out
said it
to
was
Joe.
all
Yeah.
capital letters. He's a big fan of January 6th. I don't know why.
Yeah, he's a big fan of you.
Yeah.
Clearly.
So clearly. No, this is why I love you, Luke. You brought something that I did not expect to hear tonight out of anybody's mouth. It is an interesting idea, and I see where you're going with it. That would be gutsy. It would be bold. Again, for me, all these games are on PC. Do I believe that they still need exclusives? Absolutely. 1000%. If they're going to continue to drive Game Pass, if they're going to continue to drive the brand as a brand with consoles, with, multiple markets, because we're not close to technology wise yet to what you're talking about, Luke. Although I know me, Steel, PTK, we've all had the conversation. We are all in agreement that at some point there's going to be no boxes, there's going to be no consoles. Down the road, everybody's going to be basically a third-party publisher. You're going to log in to one access point, and you're going to have your choice of ecosystems to jump into. All your games will be there, all your saves, everything will be there. That's down the road. That's in the future. Like I said, I believe there's 2 more generations of consoles at least. But I just think it's an interesting point that you make with Halo specifically, with the multiplayer, of why that could be a possibility. And it would be courageous to come out and do something like that on Xbox's part, even though it is a free-to-play multiplayer, even though it is on PC. You are crossing a line that a lot of people didn't think you would cross with your biggest IP in history, one of the Mount Rushmores of video games in Halo. So interesting.
How's that across the
interesting
line,
thing.
though? I think that's what I'm more interesting about.
For the
interested
brand,
about, like-
for the brand, Steel, for the brand, for your enthusiast, Steel, for your enthusiasts, there would be an uproar if Halo were to touch
definitely.
any of the other
Definitely.
brands, right? Again,
Definitely.
PC has been accepted now, right? PC is an accepted extension. But when you start talking Nintendo or you start talking PlayStation, that's where it gets a little dicey for people, right? And so I think that's what I meant. I mean, again, they can do whatever they want to. It's business. I've said that from the get-go. Business don't care about your feelings. Even if Sarah, Phil, everybody else shows care for the community and honestly has listened to us in the past and has made decisions, the number crunchers, the top brass, it's a business and they don't care about your feelings, and they're going to do what's best for the company. And if that means putting Halo Infinite elsewhere, they will do it. So do I think we're there yet? No, I still think this is going to be a smaller one, but interesting theory, Luke. I got to give you that, man. It
I
caught
didn't
me
see
off
that
guard.
coming at all.
No,
Definitely.
not at all.
Yeah.
So
I don't
Steel,
know. I think that's a different conversation. I guess. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Steel. You jump in here with. I mean, again, we had a little talk this morning about this. So give everybody your layout. How you feeling about this? If this turns out to be true, and obviously, same question to you per se that I gave to Luke, which is, do you still believe exclusivity is important to the brand as it stands, or is there some value to just making yourself available everywhere for the streets, as the Iron Lords like to say? Shout out to Iron Lords. Make yourself available to the streets and make your brand go everywhere, wherever it's possible. What do you think about this deal?
I just feel like I just spilled coffee. That was crazy.
Not on
Anyway,
the PC again, please.
No, not on the PC, but some other things that I care for. But it's okay. I'll get it in a second. For me, I do think, just to answer the question directly, exclusives do matter. Absolutely. Brand power matters, all that, all those great things matter. I don't necessarily think you're making yourself for the streets per se, because I just think the way that we think about console hardware is an old way of thinking.
It's archaic. Right? Granted, yes.
And I do think we need to evolve beyond that, because we evolved with that in every other avenue. I mean, when you look at your phone, no matter what, if you have a Samsung, Lenovo, whatever it may be, whatever type of phone that you have, if it's an Android, it's an Android at the end of the day, right? So it's like, at that point, why does it really matter? Now, Samsung is going to do things to try to get you in their ecosystem to use their Samsung store, but is it really better than the Play Store? Probably not. So sure, you have those things that will entice you to jump into that ecosystem, and at the end of the day, that is what matters. Now, if you get underneath certain brands, like, again, I have a Samsung, so it's like, I have Samsung just because they've been the most reliable to me phone wise. So it's like, yeah, that's where my allegiance goes. But it's like, at the same time, because it's all Android at the end of the day, I could go get a different type of phone and still be somewhat happy with that. As far as like this whole console thing, I mean, if you're going to preach accessibility, and we're going to be okay with games coming to PC, to your point, games going to mobile, to your point, having more ways to access your content, then by default, I mean, if that's holding yourself out versus just being available to your consumer, I just, one comes with a negative connotation where I think gaming has just changed, and it's just I feel like it's just an old head way to look at, oh, well, man, brands, right? Like, if I don't get that brand, what really matters? And like the thing with Halo, especially, because first party can matter at the end of the day all it wants to, but if you've had an IP that has lasted 30 years, like Halo is about to, then how do you evolve that to your next generation of kids who literally, Luke just told you, and I can tell you through experience, these kids do not care about games the way we did. They do not like the same things we did, right? And even in our own group, we still have a lot of variety, but it's even worse in a certain perspective when we look at it kind of coming up from the 90s, early 2000s and whatnot, and the type of games that we got. How do you evolve it? Put it in front of other players. Hey, these kids that are growing up, they still have their Switch as they get into middle school, high school. If you put Halo in front of them, at least in multiplayer, again, like Luke was saying, the story can be exclusive. That's what you get. You want to know more about Halo? Come to this ecosystem. Hey, $10 a month, whatever the family plan. Oh, now everybody's involved. Oh, now everybody's playing multiplayer games. Now you're in this entire ecosystem that you weren't planning to be in. Just because of that one access point. Again, like, I don't necessarily, we do this with all of our other digital services. We do it with music, we do it with TV. Like, whether certain shows are on Netflix or Disney Plus or whatever case, a lot of people don't have an allegiance to that. It's, where's my content at? And if we get to that point to where it's who is running the content, which is why I get so frustrated with PlayStation, you should be having the drive on content. And again, I get it. Hardware company, maybe that's what it is. And if it's going to take a software company to show you or demonstrate to us how it can be done in gaming, because that's the thing that people go to. Oh, this has never been proven in gaming. Oh, it can't be the Netflix of gaming because it's more interactive. You're right. It can't be that. You know why? Because once you get somebody invested in gaming, if you can introduce other games that they don't necessarily have to pay, quote unquote, full price for, and bring them into, that's how you bring them into your ecosystem. Oh, this is here too. And I get that's how you start pulling people. That's going to take time, and that's why they do need exclusives and first party to help drive that market. But we're just seeing gaming change at such a phenomenal rate. Again, we're starting to become archaic. Like me, even as a competitive gamer, people don't care about KD like that no more. And that was the thing back in the day that determined whether how good or not you were and everything else. So it's just like there's so many revolutions that are happening around us. Shout out to EA. But yeah, man.
No, I hear you. And again, I think you and Luke made the point. There is one way to also drive. There's more than one way, I should say. There's more than one way to drive people to your ecosystem, right? And exposing people outside of your ecosystem to little tastes of what you offer is certainly a way to do that. And I don't disagree at all. I don't. And I admit that a lot of the thinking is archaic. But obviously from what we've been told to publicly, right, to our faces multiple times,
right,
is that archaic way of thinking is still important to Xbox as well.
Of course, and it should
right?
be.
Right.
It should be.
It should be because we're still here.
Yeah,
and we're still here. And again, I think that they are looking further down into the crystal ball, as I said this morning, and I've said other times, because again, we've had the conversation that eventually everybody's third party publisher, technically speaking, but Xbox is looking 20 years down the road and what this industry may wind up being and what they think they're going to do to shape it. And if they're looking that far ahead, which these big companies do, if they're doing it right, and they're kind of shaping their destiny, well, then they're going to start making moves that we scratch our heads at, or that goes, why are they doing this? And that are going to complicate conversations that have been had previously before the plans changed or plans evolved. And I think that's what we're seeing with Xbox. All right, PTK, let's get you in here, brother. I'm sure you've heard the smoke this week. The rumor going around. Again, it's starting to catch on. There's some heated discussions already happening in chats and online. So PTK, how do you feel about this rumor in general that one or more games potentially from Xbox, one that we're talking about now, could potentially go to another platform or more than one platform? And do you, as I asked everybody else, are you in the camp that exclusivity at this point for the brand still matters, or are you saying, hey, go right ahead, Xbox, start opening up and start putting games elsewhere? What do you think here, brother? PTK, are you there? Did he leave us? Did we lose him?
No, I'm sorry. My mic was muted. I apologize.
Okay.
No, I didn't lose anything. I'm sorry. My mic.
I thought your
muted.
power went out too.
No.
Okay,
I had some background noise. Sorry about that.
Right.
But so first and foremost, I do got to address a couple things. One, this is not related to it's kind of related to what happened. So one, if this information is not true, we have to get better as a community. Xbox. Let's address this once and for all. We can't be moved by every time somebody says something or there's a rumor like this comes out. We can't jump and we cannibalize each other and don't even realize it, and then get mad at everybody else about it. We have to understand these things. One that hasn't happened yet. First and foremost, right?
No,
it is just a rumor. Like I said, if it's not true, let's stop jumping the gun on these things, man. And
the other part of what you're saying, though, PTK, real quick, sorry. The other part of what you're saying, though, is that nowadays in 2020, nowadays for a while, the media picks it up and runs with it as well. So they fuel a lot of the talk as well, because even if the community ignored it, the articles will be written about it, right? And that starts the conversations. So
and it's okay. And I see the chat saying 3-bit. I love 3-bit guys, right? So I mean, it is what it is. I didn't even know 3-bit. This was his rumor, right? I didn't know that was.
No, it's not. It's not 3-bit.
Well, I don't.
It's not 3-bit. They're just blaming 3-bit because we blame 3-bit for everything, including Fable not coming out yet. So he screwed it all up.
All right, so
that's just a joke.
I mean, that was that was the first thing, to be honest with you, man. That's getting crazy. We need to fall back a little bit. We're so reactionary as a community, and then we get mad and have these arguments with each other and wonder why things are so volatile. We got to get rid of that PTSD. It's a new year. Things are looking good. Second of all, do exclusives matter? I think they absolutely do. I mean, that's one of the things that differentiates your box, right? I think it matters. Now, that varies depending on the person, the customer, right? How invested they are in one particular game, and it's usually based on where your friends play more so than anything, right, Pong? If my friends play,
absolutely,
on one or the other, I'm more than likely going to play a majority of my
vast
games
majority
there.
of casuals,
especially nowadays. Yeah,
that's the
Especially
vast
nowadays.
majority of casuals. Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
so there's that. So exclusives do matter. You know what I mean? I do like, we all like lists, and I like making mine. So exclusives do matter. Like, I like seeing one company say this is our vision of a game, and we like planted the seed, we watered the seed, we fostered it until it grew into whatever it became. Like, this is our game. I like that. So for me personally, I'm cool with the exclusivity thing. This Hi-Fi Rush thing, I think this more is a case by case thing, to be honest with you guys. This particular case, I don't have a problem at all, and I don't understand why anybody else does. Obviously, we're all different, but this game's been out for a year. It's extremely successful on Xbox. Like, if you took, if this is all hypothetical, right? But if what were people saying when the game came out? That game looks like it could be made by Nintendo.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Like, literally, the game looks like it was made by Nintendo. And this is not saying that Xbox can't make a Nintendo-like game, but it gave people that Nintendo-like feel, that Nintendo-like charm that their games give them. You had a lot of Nintendo fans jumping on the Hi-Fi Rush boat. Like, this is a great game. I really enjoy this. So a game that's been hugely successful. I don't know how much it's ran its course as far as the Xbox goes. It's going to be in Game Pass forever, as far as I know, right? So we'll see. I don't know if there's any plans for DLC or anything like that, but man, put it on the Switch. I don't have a problem with it going to the Switch. It's perfect for that platform. It's not on play. If it's not PlayStation, Nintendo's fine. They have a real relationship. And it's funny because people were okay with them possibly using Master Chief in Smash. Like, weren't we okay with that?
Yeah.
Last time I checked, there was polls, all kind of stuff. Yeah, put Master Chief in Smash. I know that's a little.
There was but there was some conversation too, PTK. To be fair, that Nintendo needs to start giving back too. That it can't be a one-way relationship. Yeah. So there was some of that too.
And I understand that. I don't really have an argument for that pushback, because I do agree. And Nintendo's, unfortunately, like I said, that's just that is what it is. It tends to be a one-way street with Nintendo, unless you're Disney.
Of course, because they're not going to.
Yes. Yeah, unless you're Disney, it tends to be a one-way street. So, but yeah, I'm okay with the Hi-Fi Rush. Like, this particular case. Now, some Starfield level game or something like that. Yeah, you'll see me. I'll probably make a video, but something like Hi-Fi Rush, man, it in this particular case by case basis, it makes sense for a game like this to let it go on that system and thrive. People that want to play it on the Switch, it'll run fine on the Switch. I'm pretty sure it's optimized to hell. It'll probably run on my phone, like an old phone. Like, it's optimized that well. So I don't see in this case Hi-Fi Rush actually being a problem.
Right. Yep, and I agree. For the most part, again, I'm not thinking that they're going to do anything big. I think it is going to be smaller. I think that potentially it could be a slate of the smaller games. It could be your Hi-Fi Rushes. It could be your Pentiment. It could be your Psychonauts 2. It could be, as Luke brought up, a Sea of Thieves or a Grounded, right? As those games are driven by community. When we've seen their communities continue to grow and expand, but those are games as a service. So I think they're going to dabble. And I think that my other point about this was, listen, they're now set up with the ABK acquisition in a totally new position, a position they wanted to be in, but they are now going after the mobile market. And when it comes to the mobile market, they're going to open their own store to go toe to toe with Google and Apple at the end of the day. And what's going to win that? If they have a chance there, it's content. That's why they needed ABK. I said from the get-go, I believed them when they said that the big part of that was King and, of course, Call of Duty Mobile, etc., that ABK brought. That was priority number one for them because they want the mobile market. There's no way that I don't believe where mobile phones are going, as we've seen Apple and Android now be able to run full-fledged games like Resident Evil 4 on.
At 15 frames.
At 15 frames, sure. But again, that tech is continually pushing forward, right? Every year it gets better and better. So where that's headed, if you don't think they're not going to bring some of their IP to mobile, you're nuts. There's going to be big IP available to mobile, not just through xCloud. Right? We know xCloud works to a certain extent, depending on where you're at, depending on the whole situation with your tech setup and all, whatever. They're going to bring actual legit IP, big IP to mobile sector as well, and it's going to be on phones alongside PC as well, so which is already there. So I think that this is kind of where they're going, and I think that with the smaller games to start, they are going to dabble in expanding out, especially with Nintendo. They have a great relationship with Nintendo. Nintendo is not seen as a threat. Nintendo is very happy where
That's
they
what I'm
are
saying.
at.
It's been more of a partnership
Right,
with
it's
Nintendo lately.
partnership,
Like, this is a good direction.
and if they're thinking down the road, right? Nintendo is even if it's a one-sided relationship, having Nintendo in your corner, and we already know internally that they would love to acquire Nintendo, of course, but having Nintendo in your corner down the road in the future, where maybe that relationship does become a little bit different, maybe Nintendo breaks out a little bit and looks to Xbox to help them out, having them in your corner, that's a good thing. So I think that they're going to continue to strengthen that.
Why the hardcore guys don't like this. Anything you take away from Sony should be good for
they
y'all
won't
anyway,
give back.
right?
Because Nintendo and PlayStation will never give back as of this moment to Xbox. So again, their point, and it is a great point, if Nintendo and PlayStation aren't going to put their games everywhere, why the hell is Xbox going to put their games everywhere? Why should Xbox do that? Right? That's always going to be their point. And if that's still that archaic thinking, that tribalism, that thought that the brand absolutely needs to hold every single card they possibly can close to their vest and never, show them, then that's, that you're going to still have people in that mentality, I believe. Again, for me, the smaller game stuff, I don't have a problem with. Again, like you said, PTK. Now, if the AAA start going, if we see, Starfield or something like that go, or, Hellblade 2 down the road go, then I got to start scratching my head and asking them questions about where we're going. Again, not that I'm going to be doom and gloom, but I got to ask the questions, and I will be asking the questions about what's happening here. So
and that's fair.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great conversation to have. And I kind of want to throw, since we're all still on this topic, just the whole exclusivity thing. And we'll start with you again, Luke. We'll bring you back in on this in chat. And once again, chat, none of us are right. You know what I mean? At this point in time, right?
Yeah, it's our opinion.
This is all rumor.
Opinion. You know what I mean? This is all rumor. Shout out to 3-Bit. You're going to take this one on the nose, brother. I'm sorry. I didn't even mean for this snowball to turn into an avalanche. I had no idea. Chat, y'all should have told me early, man. But anyway, I gotta ask you guys panel one more time just about the whole exclusivity thing, and we'll start with you, Luke. So is it really about games being exclusive? That's the question we gotta ask, right, Luke? Mm-hmm. So what do you think about that question? Because that's really what we're asking. Like, is that really the point of all of this?
I think when you buy a Nintendo Switch, you know what you're gonna get. You know you're going to get Nintendo mascot platformers. You know you're going to get your Mario Kart. You know what you're going to get. When you buy a PlayStation, you know what you're going to get. Very high quality, over-the-shoulder, third-person action games. When you buy an Xbox, you don't know what you're going to get. Only those that are in the know, have taken the time to look into it, know. Whereas there's an understanding with PlayStation and Nintendo, and that's Xbox's fault, and they've said as much. The Xbox One generation damaged a lot of the expectation for the Xbox brand. So, do exclusives matter? Yeah, but they've yet to set a precedent for what it is you're going to get when you buy an Xbox. Halo Infinite launched real well. If it had not only stuck the landing, but then got it up and kept going, we would have known what to expect, but we don't. Right now, you've got a successful franchise in Sea of Thieves, but that's wavering. You've got a successful franchise in Halo, but that's certainly not standing tall next to Last of Us, Spider-Man, and Ghost of Tsushima, even though I freaking love it. We don't know what's going on with Gears. We don't know what's going on with a couple of the In Exile Obsidian stuff right now. Like, when you look at the trailers for, let's see, what do we know right now? When you look at the trailer for South of Midnight, for Avowed, for Everwild, for Perfect Dark, for Indiana Jones, when you look at the teasers, the trailer, everything that's there, you're not sure what you're gonna get. Like, you think, but you don't know. And until it is known to people that are not podcasting, not in chat rooms, not having the conversations like we do every weekend, then exclusives are hella important. You have to get it right. So you can send Hi-Fi Rush all day to Switch. You can send Grounded all day to Switch because those don't feel like Xbox games. Hellblade 2 that might be special. Starfield is going to be special over time, but we don't know what the Xbox game is right now. At least that's my thought. And maybe they don't need us to, because I sure as heck have been playing Xbox games on my phone with my backbone, because I see people playing with their ROG Ally. Maybe you don't need an Xbox game, but I do think exclusives matter, but they don't matter the same way to Xbox that they do to Nintendo and PlayStation. And we should, as content creators and in the informed groups, we should stop trying to force them into that perception, because they clearly aren't building for that. If they were, we'd already have some titles that we just don't have right now. So
yeah,
okay, I think
so
good.
I'll play devil's advocate here, so we can agree to disagree on a few points, but we love all points. By the way, chat, we all don't have to agree on this, so it's all good. But no, Luke, great points. So I think there's a world where all of them are different. Like, I think we have to understand that too. Fundamentally, they can all get to where they need to go in different ways, right? So I think for me personally, PlayStation, Nintendo, they have a lane that they've created for themselves. And you can say, well, Xbox doesn't really have a lane, but is that really true? You know what I mean? There are some things that they do extremely well. There are clear things that they do better than the other two. And I think we can all acknowledge that. I think we'd all agree on that. There are some things that they clearly do better than the other two, right? Like I don't think that's the multiplayer stuff, games as a service, value, live service stuff, innovation, being first in a lot of different ways, a lot of different things, right? So I think that we have to leave room for that too, outside of thinking that, well, they need a specific game to define Xbox. Now, I think the question when I asked about do exclusives matter, I think I was more so asking, and maybe this is my fault, Luke, more so asking, like, as far as the narrative, is that really what people are asking, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, because I think people are, though, that's a hollow question. I think most people agree exclusives do matter, right? I think we all need reasons to buy a particular system, but I think people are just, bringing up questions nobody's are asking answers to. You know what I'm saying? Or asking answers for. So it's a bit of a hollow question, but I do agree with you. And by and large, though, Luke, there are some things that Xbox can improve on. We highlight them all the time, right? Like, they're not good at certain things, but I do think that they've made a lot of headway going. They're definitely on the right track, going the right direction, and I want to make sure we acknowledge that too, because
that's why they're my main. Like, they are my main console. They make what I like, but clearly based on unit sales, there's a market that they're not tapping into. And whether they want to or not, I don't think they need to. Honestly, they don't need all the Sony games. They don't need that style, but they are doing something special with a lot of places and getting their content everywhere else. I just don't think we know what an Xbox game looks like outside of, like, us talking, panels.
But is that working for Sony right now?
I think it has. So that's a great question. It has absolutely been working. There is no way to deny that it has been working. But what we're seeing is that method is running its course to a point where they're at diminishing returns. Those games cost a lot to make, and you're getting less and less back from them. Now, their fan base has acknowledged and rewarded them consistently. The PlayStation Portable, the PSVR 2, sales of a lot of their games, like, we know that their fan base is there for it, and like Spider-Man 2, by the way, amazing. Nobody sleep on it. It's so good. But we've seen, just based on the unfortunate Insomniac hack, and it sucks that happened to them, but we did see that there are diminishing returns to funding games and development that way versus the money's made in other platforms than a lot of what Xbox is doing. Is it a better plan to put out more games that are maybe 8s versus less games that are more expensive that are 9s? And that's I don't know, but, like, I like more games. I like Xbox's method. That's my jam. But there's a lot to break down there. Sony is certainly in trouble. Sean Layden sent the warning light on a while back and seems to be right for it.
Yeah. So, and and once again, not trying to undermine your answer, Luke, at all,
I
right?
feel attacked.
Obviously, playing devil's advocate. There's no way you can be that way. You podcast with Joe. There's no way you can, or and Ains as well. There's no way you can feel attacked.
No,
You have armor. You have thick armor. I promise. But no, you're good. But so I want to throw this over to you too, Pong. Still, same question, man. Just that question, people ask it, we see it all over, and it's funny because it conveniently gets asked. We got to wonder when is this question being asked, not why, because sometimes it's like when is it being asked as well too. So where you at on that, Pong? The exclusivity question, and kind of where Luke went regarding Xbox.
I mean, for me, exclusivity matters. Again, when we talk about this stuff too, a lot of times, chat gets confused that we're talking from how we would do things all the time, and that's not the case for me specifically. I take a step back and I try to see what the thought process is, and I try to come from that perspective. Because if I was running the ship, I would be making different moves in a lot of ways than what they've done over there at Xbox. And exclusives to me still do matter because I believe in the identity of a brand, and I think that power of that identity is something that is necessary if you want to.
Absolutely,
it's necessary to differentiate yourself from the competition. And again, that's the mindset. Whether or not they are in that mindset is always going to be the question. I also would like to believe in the comments that have been made publicly to us as consumers about what Xbox is trying to do, and Phil saying that he doesn't like the idea of Xbox games always being questioned about whether or not they will go out to other platforms. Well, if this does happen, that's going to do that. And again, what Phil said turns out to be, and again, as I said before, business don't care about our feelings, don't care about Phil's feelings. They're going to do what's best for the business at the end of the day. But I don't like that questioning. And I don't like the questioning only happens on the Xbox side. And people, like some of the people in the chat and other people, when we've had these types of discussions, rightfully point out Nintendo and PlayStation are always excluded from these conversations about exclusives because they have made their walls. They have said, absolutely, you will not see our stuff elsewhere. Now we see Sony kind of expanding into PC, but PC is now considered a given. But we just know for a fact, God of War is never, Sony could be having the hardest time ever in desperate waters, and I still don't think they would port God of War or Spider-Man over to Xbox. Like that would never happen. Like they're not going to do that because of how they run the ship. But with Xbox, there always seems to be lingering questions. So I think exclusives do matter. I think that the identity matters for Game Pass. I see benefits of dabbling with your certain types of IP elsewhere, certain IP. Yeah, but again, there's two ways to look at it, right? Maybe you just build and hold all the cards and say, nope, you want something, come get it. That is one way to look at it. Another way is to creak open the door a little bit, throw out some breadcrumbs and say, come on in, come get a taste, see what you're missing. And then invite them in the door and then lock them in once they get in. And you believe that your ecosystem is strong enough to do so with a Game Pass value, right? So there are other ways to look at this, but I don't. Right now, as it stands, maybe one day we get there when the hardware starts to go away, when we get the technology, when it's just a matter of we're going to all be streaming our games from the cloud, from a central point. And I've always said that Microsoft, the corp, wants to be that access point on Azure where everybody hosts all the games, all the ecosystems. I believe that's their ultimate goal. But maybe when we get to that point, that changes, obviously. But I think at the end of the day, right now, because you still have a brand, because Xbox is still important, because Game Pass needs to continue to show the value outside of just all of us who are already all in on it, right? They need to continue to draw more people in. I think they do need to keep exclusivity a major point. And I think that they need to make sure that they're not tipping the balance of the scales in any way, towards the other side, towards third party, because then it does start to creep. Why am I buying an Xbox? Why should I get an Xbox? Eventually your games are going to come here anyways. So why do I need to do that? And you don't want that to happen if that's not what you're trying to do here. So I think that there has to be a very delicate balance with certain titles that make sense. But I do understand the people that say absolutely not, you shouldn't do this, from the standpoint of the old school mindset of Nintendo and PlayStation. Nope, exclusivity is everything. It does differentiate us from the rest of everybody else. It's why people come to our ecosystem. And the minute you start diluting that, you lose a little bit of that power. So I do hear that and understand that conversation as well. But for me, I'm okay with smaller titles. I don't have a problem with it. If it starts to be the AAA stuff, I'll start to have questions about what they're doing.
All right. That's fair. And like I said, I mean, there's a lot of different viewpoints, but go ahead, get your bars off, Steel.
Do exclusives matter? Kind of like what I touched on before. Yes, and what everybody else has said, of course they matter. You need exclusives to give yourself identity. But as far as the future goes, I just think because the pivot has been so great and obviously something needs to change. That's why I guess for me at least, looking at the old way of doing things or how things have been traditionally done, and why even PlayStation is looking at ways to branch out. Because again, it's fair to say, Ken Paul made that point, that PC is a given, but it's only a given to really Xbox. People still have a problem with PlayStation doing it, and the biggest pain point that they come from is that, oh, it devalues my console. No, because not everybody's going to spend $1,500 for a PC, and anybody can sit there and spin you a web about you buying a PC for $500 to do the same thing that the console does, and that's great. And you may find some things used on eBay to put together a Frankenstein build that could do those things. But is that a brand new console out of the box? An easy to use experience where you just press one button, pick up a controller, and you're off to the races? Whereas PC, again, yes, it has become much more accessible and much more easier to use, but there are still those headaches that if you're not a common user of PC, and again, this conversation is going to more so change as we move into the future, because again, our children at least my children are starting on tablets. So it's like it's already different. I think if Xbox is going to fulfill the accessibility dream, the other part of the picture that is also I think needs to be taken into consideration is this isn't just Xbox is going to forcefully put their games into other people's ecosystems, and these players don't have to pay for anything. This isn't going to be a free thing. So at the end of the day, if you still want competition, if there is going to be competition, why would PlayStation allow the games to come? Now, if PlayStation allows Xbox games to come to PlayStation, guess what? The only person that benefits is Xbox, because they blatantly stated that isn't their goal anymore. If we're going to listen to Phil, and again, it's in and out, it can be top dog speak, it can be gamer speak, it could just be his perspective. There's a lot of things that are mixed in there that we have to take in consideration with Phil and his perspective, because he can only say so much, knowing that a lot of the times it comes across like he wants to give us a little bit more juice, right? When you consider that, if they're going to blatantly say that, hey, we like Game Pass, we believe in subscription models, we want Game Pass wherever it can be, we will deliver you games wherever Game Pass is accessible. Why do you think that PlayStation doesn't have Internet Explorer or a fashion of the web browser on their device? If they do not allow Xbox in, then there's no play to be had. So how can you cry foul, right? And I think that turns the conversation into more so, not maybe if exclusives matter, because I think Microsoft and Xbox's exclusive is their ecosystem. As bad as you may feel about it on Windows, it is the most used PC ecosystem. At the end of the day, as much as you may not like or dislike, dislike or like Xbox, their ecosystem is known for multiplayer gaming, which is again intrinsically attached to the PC market, because PC, the online gaming scene for PC has been a thing much longer than it has been on console. So it's like one thing kind of folds on top of each other and creates this, I think, a pyramid that they've been trying to build up over the years. They just didn't know the direction. Again, I see same as Blackley, I touched on this morning, talk about all the time how it's funny to see the conversations that have Xbox involved in it now, because Microsoft didn't believe in it. It was a forced vision. They had to fight tooth and nail. The amount of work that a software company had to put in to compete with other hardware players that we have recently found out. Ladies and gentlemen, PlayStation doesn't like to play ball. They will purposely cut you out of a deal and say, no, you want to do business with us. Xbox cannot be part of this for X amount of time, however amount of time. That's how these things go. So it's only fair that if that's the game that you're going to play, how do I fight back? And instead of giving up, there's obviously a vision that was pitched that, hey, why don't we just make things more accessible, do exactly what we've done with Office, and see if we can apply that to the gaming industry? People said that it wouldn't work, and thus far, and I don't know. One side is complaining about the loss of money, the loss of resources. They're in the hole, technically, as a company. They're in debt. And again, like I mentioned this morning, you can operate out of debt. That's great. Microsoft has now the full, Xbox has the full backing of Microsoft now. And that's just, it's a different game that we're overall playing. And I think that's the more so the pressure that is kind of happening in the scenes right now, at least in my perspective.
Yeah. No, once again, this point can be debated nonstop. There's a lot of different ways to look at it. There's really no right or wrong answer. We don't know yet. Nothing's happened. So this is all just conversation. So nobody get too gassed up about anything in the chat too much, because once again, this is all Monday morning quarterback stuff until something actually happens. Because they could just put Hi-Fi Rush on Switch and they never do that ever again. Yeah. That could happen too. So and if that happens, then what? This conversation doesn't mean anything. So we just don't know at this particular point in time. But I do want to kind of change the tone here a little bit. I wanted to talk a little bit about Hellblade II. Because obviously I think it's the biggest IP from Xbox. I think the biggest and closest we think that's coming out for Xbox. And I want to get everybody's kind of opinion. Now we're in 2024. We're getting close to just, we've already heard things about Hellblade 2. We've seen, they finally showed us a little bit of combat. We finally seen a few different things. The game visually looks amazing. And we've already come out, seen some leaked documents. Insomniac is saying that that's the bar for them to hit for Wolverine. So that means a lot. They're a very high quality dev. Some say top 5 dev, top 3, whatever you want to have them. That means a lot. So what are your expectations, Luke, with Hellblade 2? I know you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah, I think Hellblade 2, it needs to be a visual stunner, which I think obviously based on everything we've seen so far, it's going to be. I get the feeling, and I know nothing on this, but I get the feeling that Xbox went back to Ninja Theory and was like, hey, we loved the first one, but can you get a little more combat in there? At least based on the fact that we saw it in 2019 and it's 2024 now. Like that's a for them to have been making it for that long, because you had to think it was being worked on before the showcase in 2019. I think they were probably like, hey, can we get a little more combat in there? I would have to imagine that God of War 2018 had some influence, that The Witcher had some influence, that some of these other games have had influence on it. But I fully expect Ninja Theory to give Xbox its first true Game of the Year contender. And that's not a slight to Hi-Fi Rush, which I thought should have been on more lists. It's not a
sliding Starfield. Easy.
Oh, yeah, you trekking. You forgot the show you was on, huh?
Hey, I love Starfield. That was on my list, but I understand its criticisms. I think they need a game that's a 90 plus Metacritic, because unfortunately Metacritic does matter. I don't agree with it, but it does seem to be influential. But I think Hellblade 2, I mean, God, have you guys watched those trailers in 4K or watched them with headphones on? Like that game feels special, doesn't it? Like it feels special when I'm playing Alan Wake 2, and the sound design and the visuals wrap me up in the game. When I played the first Hellblade, the game and the sound design wrapped me up into it in a special way. I think Hellblade 2 is set to set a standard that we've not seen out of an Xbox first party yet, because it is in it's just such its own brand. I'm really excited for it. And I think it's gonna push a lot of first party studios in Xbox and outside of Xbox to set a bar. And you alluded to Wolverine. I think that's spot on. It makes good sense. This feels to me like a different caliber release than some of the other stuff we've seen out of Xbox in a pretty darn good 2023, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. I think a lot of people are. We're all high on Hellblade 2. We've talked about it since the first time we saw it here at the shop multiple times. I'm sure if Fuzz was here, he'd be talking about it too. And it's one of the games that I look forward to. I never got a chance to get into the first one. I have no excuse, by the way, because it's been on. I've had 1,000 chances to play the game. I can go boot it up right now. So I don't really have an excuse, but I'm definitely going to dive into Hellblade 2 for sure. And it's special, man. You're right about like what it feels like. It does definitely feel like they've carved out this particular type of niche. And people talk about, like, they compare Ninja Theory, they call them like the Naughty Dog of Xbox. Have that what you may, if you feel that way, good or bad. Some people say it's a compliment, some people say it's not, but they're definitely stamping and cementing their case as one of the top tier development studios. And I think this game is going to put them on the map, unlike Hellblade 1, as well as Hellblade 1 sold, because it did sell extremely well for what it was. This, I think, will definitely be a leap forward for them. Not just visually, because we've seen that they can do that, but narrative wise, it'll be a different look for the Xbox brand as well too. Especially a game like this may be coming out early in the year. More mature game, something like that along those lines. But I think that at the end of the day, Ninja Theory is extremely talented, and people will give them their just due once they release this game. So let me throw this over to you, Steel. Hellblade 2, bro. Where you at? Is this one of your games you're looking forward to?
I'm extremely looking forward to Hellblade 2. I played the first Hellblade, I believe it was either last year or the year prior. That was my first time ever jumping into it. Never realized what it was. Always heard things about it. And I'm not a scary game dude, so I think that was another thing that was keeping me from it for quite some time. It's just not my thing. Like Dead Space is probably my limit. So I mean, but there's that, just to give a perspective.
Yeah.
But the Hellblade, the overall experience of somebody who's, again, and this might be corny for some people, I'm more in tuned spiritually with things, so energies and things like that. So it's like them dealing with schizophrenia and also just dealing with the thought of spirits and whatnot, and having things that are having an effect on your world, and you seeing things and just visions and whatnot, and how it plays in with her, and everything that she has going on behind the scenes also, and how she's dealing with it. It is a literal audio experience as a game in totality. If you play that game, do not play that game in any other way other than playing with a good pair of headphones on, and just really throw yourself into it. I actually liked what the combat gave me in Hellblade 1. So knowing, it was simple and it wasn't over the top or nothing, but it was still good for what they brought. I mean, it was good enough to make me go look back at their older game, Heavenly Sword, which I never jumped into because I just kind of wanted a basis of what Ninja Theory could be bringing to Hellblade 2. Not that it was going to be that, but this is their pedigree overall. And I know it's a different team they've added and whatnot, but because of the first game and my interest in what they have going on with the story, and knowing that they're diving even further into the mental space of it, and knowing I'm going to get even more audio cues and maybe more of that as essence that that first game was giving me, is very exciting, but also very maybe a little fearful, because I might be pong this time. I have to take some breaks, man, because the first one really put me into some moments, especially towards the end, where you're running away from this big spirit. And I don't want to give it away for anybody who's still interested in playing the first one, but that moment you're trying to figure your way through this path was so fearful to me at a level. Like, it was exciting, but at the same time, it was like, because I was able to get through the first time, it was like a sigh of relief when I was able to get through, and then it still continuously progressed down that roller coaster in that session, and it just kept giving me more and more that I just wasn't expecting. I do hope. Well, I don't even have to hope anymore. From everything that we've seen of Hellblade, if it releases the exact way that we've seen it in these days, if you see a game one way outside of the day before, I don't know anybody, but anyway, most times when you see a game a certain way, that's how it's going to release. And there's no reason for me to doubt Ninja Theory, especially with the way the first Hellblade looked. It can't look worse than that. And that is already beautiful in 4K if you go play it back right now. So I can only imagine what this is going to be, the amount of detail they've put into it. Again, they got their own mocap studio. They had a brand new studio built for this. They've put a lot of work into this. And not only that, the actress has actually put even more into the role now also, because now she's not coming from a place of, we need to do this. This may be it for us, to now being more so, especially being a dev previously, to now more so man, what is possible now that we've done this. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. I'm excited for Hellblade 2. Definitely one of my most anticipated for next year.
All right, Pong, I know we talked about Hellblade 2, man. I know it's on your list, brother. I know it's something that you're excited about. So, just where you at? I mean, we this is the first time bringing it up in the new year. So, new year, new energy. We're a little bit closer to whatever date it will be, right? So, but where are you at just overall? The look for Xbox, and is this the game that kind of set the tone for them going forward, at least for 2024?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you're talking about the big AAA stuff, a lot of my sentiments that I've said before fall in line with, what Luke said and of course what Steele said as well. I've said all along that this is, there's people who've had the audacity to question why Xbox acquired Ninja Theory, and why would they do such a thing? Like, there's stupid things that have been said, but Ninja Theory was one of those acquisitions that is taking a while to have some fruits, but this is going to be a big one for them. They were given a brand new studio, with up to date, cutting edge mocap, specifically for them to do this kind of work. They are going to set the bar, not just for Xbox, but for the industry in a lot of ways when it comes to graphically. I don't know how people can watch what we've seen out of it and not already understand that that's exactly what's happening here, that they are going to kind of sit alone by themselves for a while. When you look at the level of detail within the game, the realistic atmosphere that is setting, the environments, all of it is coming together exactly to expectations when Ninja Theory set out to set this bar themselves. When they said, we want to be, up there, and take that leap from what they could do as an indie studio with limited resources, limited time with the first Hellblade, and really show their vision off this time around. So I think from that perspective, that's what gets me excited, right? Because I think that being able to experience that both on my PC and on the Xbox itself is going to really elevate Ninja Theory for a lot of people, and that's what I always love to see. I love to see the growth of studios, and this is big for Xbox because we always talk about this. The people who have downplayed acquisitions say they just buy things, they don't actually create things. Well, that's utter and complete bullshit to me, and always has been. Studios like Ninja Theory have been growing because of Xbox. They have been allowed to expand, to get new studios, to go hire tons more teams, to double, triple their sizes of what they're capable of doing, because of Xbox. So Xbox is creating. They are creating these studios. They're allowing these studios creative freedom. And Hellblade 2 is that creative freedom coming together all in one spot, because a lot of publishers would not have put the kind of backing into a Hellblade to that Xbox has done so as a first-party studio now with Ninja Theory. So this is a big moment. It's another big moment. We got to get kind of used to this. Xbox is kind of lining up to have a big moment every single year. Obviously, Starfield was the one this past year. And again, whatever you think of Starfield, for me, it's GOAT all time. I love Starfield. This is the next big one in the lineup. And I think that Hellblade 2 is going to draw a lot of eyes to it. To Luke's point about the Metacritic, again, you all know my personal opinion on how Metacritic should affect how you play games. But for the wider audience, for the media, all the places that we don't generally care about, but Xbox cares about as a brand, yeah, they do need a high Metacritic. There were some rumors this week that potentially they've already done some internal reviews on the game, and it's scoring in the 90s. Again, we all know how internal reviews go. Internal reviews supposedly said Redfall was decent. We know how that showed up. But I do believe that Ninja Theory is on a different level here, and Ninja Theory is going to nail this release. They're going to come out and show the world that they are one of the top development studios in the entire world when it comes to these types of very heavy adult type games, very realistic type games. And I think that all the things that kind of were criticisms from Hellblade 1, the combat, some of the puzzles, I think that's all going to be fixed. I think that's all going to be elevated to different styles. And I think that they're going to correct some of those criticisms in this one. And I think they're going to put out a complete game that is going to score high, that is going to be in Game of the Year conversations. And I think that that is ultimately the end goal for the studio and for Xbox. And they're going to get one of those high quality games this year that they crave, that everybody wants to play. And Hellblade 2 is that for sure.
Okay. I agree. And I guess just to give my take here too, I'm like I said, I didn't get a chance to play Hellblade 1, but I'm very fond of Ninja Theory and their talent. I know what they're capable of. You know what I mean? I've watched people play the game. I've obviously seen tons of reviews and videos on Hellblade 1, but I'm super excited for and the big thing you brought up here was the growth, right? Like you said, they got a brand new studio, brand new mocap, brand new everything, right? For this particular game. And they're doing some real like next level, photorealism, the sound design. And keep in mind, Paul, we keep talking about games we haven't talked about. Project Mara is still floating out there somewhere.
Yep.
Right. That's another game, Luke. You mentioned it. We can add that to the list as well, too, right? So another game that we just don't know a whole lot about, but that's what they're capable of, man. So I do think that this is gonna nail it. Now, I'm not gonna get into the Metacritic thing. That's a whole nother argument.
Mm-hmm.
This show will be, an extra 30 minutes if we start down that Metacritic path. So I'm not even going to do that. But at the end of the day, this is what Xbox wants. They want to have the ability. They want to give all of their studios the ability to do this, to do Hellblade 2, not literally, but to be able to do things that they thoroughly enjoy, make games that they thoroughly enjoy, make them like in the best possible circumstances. Like, we're going to give you the money, the resources, everything we need. And this is another example. Now, whether it hits or not, I think it's going to nail it. Like, I think it's going to nail it for sure. Just based on what we saw so far. But I think we're probably going to go ahead and just wrap it up on that note then, man.
I want to say too real quick that Hellblade 2, as far as it goes, it's another addition to the diverse lineup that Xbox already has. It's a different game than you're going to be able to play anywhere else, right? It is an added part of the complete puzzle that we've talked about, that Xbox wants basically to have every genre, every type of game covered underneath their first party. And Ninja Theory do games that we don't see a lot of. They do those heavy atmosphere type games, those adult games that I was talking about. And that is something that obviously Xbox wanted. They saw what Ninja Theory was doing. They believed in Ninja Theory. They went and acquired them. And now they're getting their first delivery of that type of content from Ninja Theory. And I think everybody said it here, they're going to knock it out of the park with this one, but it's going to be another showpiece for Game Pass, for the ecosystem, to say, look, Xbox has got you covered. You want to play, you want to play this type of game? We've got that type of game. You want to come play multiplayer? We've obviously got that in spades. You want to come play MMOs, games as a service? We got those in spades. We've got whatever you need, because they're adding JRPGs, they're adding the Eastern flavor games more and more, as we've seen. That's the last missing piece, I think, as far as an acquisition goes. But they are covering all the bases right now. So whatever you look for as a gamer, you have a higher than not chance that you're going to find something on Xbox and on Game Pass to say, oh yeah, that's exactly what I want to play. Let's go check it out. And that's important to what they're trying to do.
For sure. There's a couple super chats that I don't want to forget, because obviously these are extremely special. So we got a super chat for $2.79 from Game Positive. Shout out to Game Positive. We stopped in earlier. Said Happy New Year to the shop. Happy New Year to you, Game Positive. And another $5 super chat from Al. Me say, you know what, Luke, I like it. See, Luke, you're not crazy as you think. He said having both COD and Halo multiplayer on Nintendo, Xbox would own their multiplayer user base. No PlayStation, no, hell no. So good shit, man. So,
but I knew it was crazy. It was just fun.
Yeah, for sure. We love it though. Like I said, we love that, man, for sure. But I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap up the show on that note, man. Another one in about. I noticed too. Show we had over 100 viewers pretty much the whole time. You guys are freaking amazing. See, Luke, you bring out all of the people. Everybody comes out to see Luke, man. I hope you guys had your tucked in shirts and your all your belts on and the ties and everything for the special occasion. But yeah, well, we appreciate all you guys for coming out, hanging out with us. Once again, every week gets bigger and bigger. Go check that video out that I dropped earlier as well too. Give me some feedback, man. Look at Decado. Pong.
Decado said we went a whole entire show, chat. We went a whole entire show without the hype train getting above Mach 2. We're not going to end it that way this year. It's 2024. It's a new year, and Decado's got to come in with a 5 bomb. He's coming in with the easy layup. He jumped onto the court right at the end of the game as the refs were winding the clock down, and he said, no, we're going to do a nice, easy 5 layup right up in here, and we're going to get 5 people tickets to the Shop Podcast Hype Train, 2.5 on the Mach Richter scale. Let's go. Buckle up. It's the end of the show, but it doesn't matter. Fasten those seatbelts a little bit tighter as we get out of here, folks. Thank you, Decado, for the 5 bomb. Appreciate you. Choo, choo, motherfuckers. Choo, choo.
Awesome, man. Shout out to you, Decado, for the 5 gifted, man. So once again, the train made another stop this week. That's like 3 weeks in a row, man. So shout out to all you guys who continue to support us here, not just by showing up, just coming and hanging out with us, but also gifting and donating and all of those cool things that you guys do as well too. We greatly appreciate it. But I got to get my guests out of here, man. So Luke, first and foremost, man, thank you for coming out, hanging out with us, man. Let everybody know where they can find that awesome show you got, brother.
Oh man, well, it was an honor to be here. You know, I love you guys. I love listening to you guys. I often lurk, and lately I've been lurking and playing Halo Firefight. So it's been a blast to get to join you guys for your New Year show here. So the first show of the New Year. Find XEP over on all your podcast services. It's the Xbox Expansion Pass. Really would love to have you guys over on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you find podcasts. The Xbox Expansion Pass is a great one. I hope you guys will add it to your list if it's not already there, because we work hard to bring out the best in Xbox coverage and in gaming coverage overall. We also do a lot of interviews and such, which is a blast. You can find me on Threads at Insipid Ghost. I'm also over on X as well. Insipid Ghost is my handle there. But really and truly, I appreciate everybody in chat with the feedback. I loved reading it, following along. You guys are special. Always means a lot to see Rain and Pong and Blame you as well. It means a lot. So I appreciate you guys having me.
Oh, no, we appreciate it. The pleasure is ours, man. So shout out to Luke. You guys go. You know we do roll out the red carpet. Go show Luke some love. XEP. Shout out to Logan too, as well too, man. We'll have Logan on another week. But once again, Luke, thank you, bro, for spending some little bit of time. Tell Mrs. Laura as well too. Thank you for allowing you to have us a little bit of time this evening as well too. I will. So we got to make sure we pay the bills around. We can't. I got to send you on your way, but we appreciate you, Luke. But my brothers, my 2 right-hand man here, or 2 right-hand man. Look, good Lord, I'm still thinking Fuzz is around. I'm so used to it, man. So used to it, Mr. Still Rain, man. Glad you come through. I know I shot the bat signal a little bit late, but you came through, man. Appreciate you. Let everybody know where they can find you if they don't already know, brother.
Yeah, man. I told you if I can make it through, I definitely would. And I appreciate you having me, man. It's always a pleasure just being able to be on in totality. So, man, you can find me, Steel Rain, at Teaser 7 everywhere. I make it real easy. Google's probably the easiest place to get all the rest of the information. But other than that, I do frequent the streets of Xbox in the app, otherwise Twitter, otherwise known as X. Also have a Saturday morning show, 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. UK time, known as Living Split Screen, a non-console-centric platform talking about everything going on in the gaming industry. And also, I'm on with Mr. Boomstick XL every Tuesday. That's Xbox Factor Podcast, where you got to get that green energy in. So find me those places. PTK was awesome podcasting with you tonight. Insipid Ghost. It was good having you in. Having your fruitful thoughts on here is always a good thing. And then Pong, we chopped it up this morning. You know what it is, brother. It's always love. And
brother.
It's appreciate you guys for having me.
Not a problem, brother. Not a problem. So shout out to Steel once again for coming through the other half of Living Split Screen. So go check Steel out. All the Living Split Screen stuff. You guys know what they do every single Saturday morning, waking you up with that good game and talk. So appreciate you for coming through, Steel. I got to do my brother Fuzzy outro too, because he's not here to do it. So go follow Fuzz. All his information is down in the description. If you're catching this on a replay, obviously Fuzz had some Mother Nature issues. So unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it through the full show, but I'm sure he'll be here next.
That was a long bathroom break. Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, crazy, right? So shout out to Fuzz. He fell in the toilet. Shout out to Fuzz, man. But either way, I'm sure he'll watch the replay. And last but not least, my brother Pong. So another phenomenal show. We had the train come through. Over 100+ people in here. Some new faces. Had Luke. Man, what more can you ask for, brother?
Yeah, what a night. Again, love ending my Saturday nights, my podcasting week right here. And again, we had a short week because we didn't have any PM to PM. We didn't have any Xbox Ultimate. So the Saturday was nice to get back to normal with Living Split Screen. And of course, right here on the Shop podcast and an extra special with my brother Steele. Again, can't get enough of the man. He, when we do shows together, I love talking with this dude. So great to have him here. But of course, getting to chat with Luke, which doesn't happen frequently enough. But when it does, it's always an awesome time because he does bring new ideas and different perspectives. And that's what all this is about. And he came tonight with that Halo stuff. That was out of left field. I wasn't expecting it. So he definitely brought it tonight. So appreciate you, Luke, as always. Pleasure talking with you, sir. Thank you for giving us your time tonight as well as Steele. And of course, PTK, brother, great to be here with you. Chat, you guys, absolutely incredible. That year-end energy that we had for like the last 2 months has carried over into 2024. We had energy all last year. So I'm not taking away from y'all. You know how much I love and respect all of you. But man, the end of the year stuff was just off the charts, and that's continued right into 2024. You guys are special. You guys are a part of these shows as much as the panels are. Don't you forget it. Don't let anybody out there tell you that you don't matter unless you subscribe. That is a bunch of BS, and those people are going to find out real quick. Fuck around and find out. So guess what? None of that happens on any of the shows that I'm a part of at all, including this one right here. Thank you all for being here. Whether you lurk, whether you listen to us for 5 minutes or the full 2 hours, or whether you come into the future and find us down the road and come back and listen to some of the old episodes, we love you all the same and respect you all the same. So thank you all for being here on that note. Obviously, you know where to find me. Pong Soul on X, formerly known as Twitter. Pong Soul on Xbox. You guys know the drill. Next week, you got to be there Tuesday. As Steele said, he is now part of the panel. I always shout out the Xbox Factor anyway because Mr. Boomstick does so much for the community, shares out everything that he possibly can, gives people chances on his show that are new to the podcasting scene. So I'm always going to give Boom his flowers every week. So guess what? Go check out Xbox Factor podcast on Double Barrel Gaming every Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 o'clock Central Time, and you can hear my brother Steele on there right now as well. And then, of course, Thursday, again, we didn't have a show this week. Mav and I have been crazy with our shows, late shows, not being able to do it. The holidays been crazy. Real life's been busy. This week was not my fault. This was Mav's fault, by the way. Shout out to Mav. So I didn't cause the problems this week. But we are going to be back next week for PM in the PM on Thursday. Fun Speculation Network. Same bat channel, same bat time over there. We should be a normal one this week, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Central Time. Join me and Mav for a great two-man show, unless we decide to have a guest. We haven't had a guest in a while, but otherwise, you're going to get 3+ hours there, so join us every Thursday. And then the fam gets together Friday night on Fun Speculation Network for Xbox Ultimate every Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central Time. Lots of laughs, lots of discussion. Different voices that you don't always hear, like Psychonauts and Jasper. It's always a great time along with Fuzzy and whoever else decides to join me and Mav as well. But be there for that. And then, of course, Saturday mornings, like Steele said, you know where you're going to find it. Live, raw, and uncut every Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central Time. Listen, we might as well just say 4+ hours. We didn't even know we were going to talk today, and we were over 4 hours. I said 3+ hours. We'll just move this to 4+ hours. Buckle up. Get ready every Saturday morning for me and Steele. Again, we get the chat involved. We had another open discussion with the chat about topics we weren't planning on talking about today. It just happens naturally over there. We don't plan our shows. So join us every Saturday morning for Living Split Screen. And then, God willing, I'll be back here next weekend to end my Saturday night on the Shop podcast right here. Listen, y'all, it's the golden age of gaming. Get out there this weekend. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. If you're working, Decado, I saw you're working, man. Hope work goes fast and you get through it soon. But get out there, play what you love what you play. Welcome to 2024. Let's kick some ass this year. Have a great rest of your night. PTK, get us out of here, brother.
Appreciate you, Pong. And the easiest way to keep up with Pong, just go follow him on Twitter/X. You'll be able to keep up with all the podcasts. But we appreciate you around here, Pong. Like I said, the battery of the shop podcast, man. But last but not least, your host here, PTK Blam. And I want to reiterate the same point. We care about each and every one of you guys that come through, all the new faces. It still baffles me every single week that just people come here and hang out and enjoy what we talk about. So keep sharing it out. Keep doing it. Tell people about the shop podcast. Best place to get your gaming fix every single Saturday evening, man. And we will be back next week, same time, same place. Hopefully more new faces. Hopefully all of you guys come back and hang out with us again. New guests as well too, man. But I appreciate you guys. Enjoy your weekend. Happy New Year. Have a good night. And we're out of here, people.